Let's raise the big question tonight. The attack on Prashant Bhushan, is it a sign of growing intolerance in our so-called civil society? That's the big question we're raising. Joining us now, special panel, Colin Gonsalves, senior lawyer, Executive Director, Human Rights Law Network, someone who works closely with Prashant Bhushan. Radha Kumar joins us. She's an interlocutor on Kashmir. The group has submitted a report, Professor of Peace and Conflict Management. Also joining us, Yasin Malik, chairman of the JKLF, one of the prominent separatist groups in the valley. Also joining us, Aditya Kaul, member of Roots in Kashmir. And I'm also joined by Shazia Ilmi, who's a member of Team Anna. I appreciate all of you joining us. I'm coming to you, Colin Gonsalves, first. You've been a close associate of Prashant Bhushan. Given the kind of causes and the causes that he's taken up over the years, whether it's Naxals, whether it's Kashmir, are you surprised with this attack on him?
Well, we never expected this attack at all, so we're really all very surprised. We're really naive in our attitudes in the sense that we carry on regardless, and Prashant particularly just carries on and on without any protection, without any bodyguards. And I suppose given the history of attacks, particularly in the recent past, we should have expected, something would happen and maybe we should have been a bit more careful. But human rights activists just carry on without any protection at all. And I think we'll now have to be much more careful in the way we do things. But I want to say one thing, Rajdeep.
Yes.
These things happen only because the heads of these terrorist organizations, like in Bombay, we saw them attack the auto rickshaw persons. The heads, the generals who plan these attacks, do so from their air-conditioned homes. And the foot soldiers go out and do the beatings. And it's time that we catch not just the persons who do the assaults, but we catch the heads of the organizations and put them behind bars. It's only because we don't catch these top men, the generals, we never catch the generals, that we have these instances taking place again and again and again. So
you're saying, Colin Gonsalves, that catch the person who's behind the Sri Ram Sena. Inder Verma, according to you, is just a foot soldier. Similarly, when it comes to the MNS attacks on auto rickshaw drivers, no point catching the attackers. Catch a Raj Thackeray if necessary. If there's an attack on an IBN Lokmat office or a Headlines Today office, catch the people who are behind the brains behind the attack.
Yes, exactly. And it's only then that they will really feel the fear of God when they get hauled to a police station and handcuffed and put behind bars, that they'll really realize that they are not beyond the law. Today they think they can just plan these attacks and get away with it. And they have got away. For decades they've got away.
Got away for decades. I want to bring in Yasin Malik because this particular statement erupted, Mr. Malik, today because apparently Prashant Bhushan gave his view on a plebiscite in Kashmir. Now, you and others who have voiced the views of Kashmiri separatism have been attacked in the past, but there will be those who will say that many of you have also encouraged this culture of violence by endorsing militancy. Once you endorse a form of violence, one form of violence begets more violence. Yasin Malik.
Rajdeep, I believe that freedom of expression and democracy is a battle of ideas.
Yes.
If you will not allow it, then definitely violence will take place. Yes, it is true that we started an armed struggle in 1988, but it was again Indian civil society. He came to see us in the different prisons and pursue us. Can you give a chance to the non-violent democratic movement so that Indian civil society can also support you? We declare unilateral ceasefire. Now in 2008, the people of Kashmir have shown a collective Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
The people of Kashmir have shown a collective transition from violent movement to non-violent democratic movement. Now, in India,
hold on. Yasin Malik, there are two sides to the coin. If there is somebody tomorrow who criticizes your point of view, are you willing to listen to him without resorting to violence? As I said, a culture of violence begets more violence. Whether it's a separatist, whether it's a human rights activist, whether it's a liberal voice, they get targeted because you are not willing to accept another point of view.
Rajdeep, I totally agree with the Wildy Rose's beautiful writing on the democracy, that I may not agree with you even 1% what you said, but I will defend your right to say till the last drop of my blood. But from last 2-3 years in Indian states, we have seen this kind of a gundaism, that whosoever is holding a seminars on Kashmir, that so that this issue can be resolved peacefully.
Yes.
They have been attacked, we have been attacked. It is giving definitely a bad image to the Indian democracy, because India is selling a democracy to the whole of the world. But these kind of people who are creating this kind of culture in different states of India, they cannot be a well-wishers of Indian state. They are damaging their democracy. So if they want a genuine transaction which has been takes place in Kashmir, from violent movement to non-violent, if they want it should sustain it, then definitely you will have to provide a genuine space for non-violent democratic movement where they will speak and express their ideas.
Point taken. You want that space to be created. You know, Professor Radha Kumar, it almost seems as if when it comes to Kashmir or even Naxalites or Maoists, no other view can be expressed. In the Kashmir context, if anyone is to even so much as suggest that why not have a referendum, that's enough for that person to be called anti-national. In your experience, is the space shrinking now for alternative viewpoints?
Let me say I believe that there is a lot of intolerance across this country, including, by the way, in Jammu and Kashmir. I also think that it's absolutely appalling that anyone can beat somebody up for their views. That is intolerable and should be stopped. Having said that, I would say that frankly, the tone and tenor of a lot of the electronic media contributes to the kind of intolerance that is being generated everywhere.
Right. Okay, so you're saying that the electronic media in a sense tends to dub people as nationalistic and anti-national, is it? That we look at the world as black and white, or a section does, and that generates this form of intolerance. That anyone who doesn't agree with a particular viewpoint is dubbed anti-national.
It's not just anti-national, anti-anything.
Okay.
It seems to me that this constant, even the titles of your shows make it fairly clear.
Right.
That you're looking for debates and arguments all the time. You're pitting people against each other. You, of all people, should not be surprised then if that is the response you get.
Okay. Radha Kumar, you're asking the media to introspect, but Aditya Kaul, the reason we have you on this program is because your group, in a sense, has been associated, some say, with some of these attacks. Attacks on Mirwais in the past. You have targeted Arundhati Roy. And I've seen your comments on Twitter recently where you have attacked Prashant Bhushan, saying that he's anti-national because he takes on the cause of Maoist sympathizers, because he seemed to support a referendum in Kashmir. Now, this violent mindset is leading to the kind of violence we saw today.
Look, Rajdeep, I'm not going to fall today into this trap of freedom of speech. You know how we all are in favor of freedom of speech. I am in favor of all the liberal ideas. But at the same time, I'm very aghast today that I have to share a panel with a terrorist like Malik.
Right.
I mean, this shows the level of tolerance that we all have. That I, a victim of a terrorist Malik, I'm sharing a podium, although I was not informed in advance that I would be. Anyhow,
no, hold on. The moment you hold on. The moment you start, my issue is more with the kind of language which is then used against a Prashant Bhushan that encourages maybe a group like the Sri Ram Sena to attack him. You come from a very civilized background. Why do you encourage this? Why do you encourage a Mirwais to be targeted? One day Mirwais, today is Prashant Bhushan.
Rajdeep, I think the best person to answer this is Rajdeep Sardesai, because for all these 2 decades, we have been ignored. The Kashmiris, the nationalist voice across India has been totally ignored.
Why can't you have a civilized argument?
Yes,
why disrupt a seminar? Why disrupt a seminar? Why resort to physical violence?
Podium? Where do we have the, there is no violence. I mean, I do not support violence. I have never been caught for violence. I just want to put across a point of view. There are no avenues. The government of India, the media all across have boycotted us. The nationalist voice has been totally boycotted. Where do we find our voice? I mean, I have been fighting a case on legal grounds in the Delhi High Court, in the Delhi Lower Court for past 1 year on sedition case of Arundhati Roy. Why has there been no action? The government scripted an answer in the court and it was trashed. It was rubbish.
According to
your
you,
channel has been following
Aditya Raj Kaul, according to you, Prashant Bhushan is anti-national for taking up the cause of Maoist sympathizers, right?
Rajdeep, my total one question is that what was the need? Suddenly in Banaras he has to say that Kashmir should have referendum. I, as a citizen of Kashmir who has been ousted because of terrorism, question this. I have a right to question.
You have a right to question, but you cannot. But sometimes the kind of language which is used leads others to resort to violence. Do you, in a sense, accept that you are rationalizing the kind of violence we've seen today?
But this is the manifestation of anger. All these years we have been ignored. These attacks would very sadly, very unfortunately, these attacks will continue. And I can't help it. I personally, I'm not involved with any of these attacks. But where is the podium? The government has totally ignored everybody.
Why violence?
We have people.
Why can't you? I am giving you the opportunity.
Just a minute, Rajdeep.
You get opportunities on TV channels. You can write blogs. Why resort to physical violence? Why go and disrupt a seminar? Whether it's Mirwaiz Omar Farooq, whether it's Arundhati Roy, whether it's Prashant Bhushan. I mean, what is this culture of violence?
Why don't you question the culture of violence in Kashmir? Rajdeep, last year Yasin Malik was in Delhi in Teen Murti Bhavan and he said that I would be again willing to pick up the gun and kill people. Where were you at that time, Rajdeep?
So you're saying, okay, we'll ask. I'll let you quickly respond, Yasin Malik. Respond to what I asked you earlier also. A culture of violence begets more violence.
See, this person, he get everywhere, wherever there were the seminars. The people who are organizing those seminars, they give him an opportunity to speak. But he is purely an English-speaking gunda. Wherever he goes, he start, after he will finish his speech, then he will not other people to speak there and he will create disruption there.
No, answer your. He's saying that.
So the gun.
What he said. No, okay. That's simple. Okay, what he said now, right now, about the gun. Now, whole media was there.
Yes.
Get your footage. If he will be proved right, that Yasin Malik said that I will go for gun again, I will take retirement from politics. He is a congenial liar and
there are YouTube videos to prove it. The world can see it.
He is a weeping boy who is suffering from identity crisis.
Hold on.
He is a weeping boy working for some agencies. He is suffering from identity crisis.
Hold on. You know this. Let's focus once again. Let's focus once again on the critical issue, which is free speech versus violence, which many believe is, isn't there another way to express an alternate viewpoint? Shazia Ilmi, you're a member of Team Anna. Ironically, the moment Prashant Bhushan became a member of Team Anna, he was suddenly embraced by the very groups who called him anti-national. While he was taking up cases for Maoists, he becomes anti-national. Today, it seems almost as if his past has caught up with him and some fringe elements want him to be silenced. I mean,
Rajdeep, there is such complete lack of objectivity. I can understand political parties when they do what they do, but in terms of media, in terms of civil rights activists, they pit one cause against the other.
Right.
So it's like either you're a status quoist or you're a Maoist.
Right.
You don't have, if you challenge the system, it rankles a lot of people. And if Prashant Bhushan, even if he said that made the comment on referendum, I have been watching the India Against Corruption Facebook page. There have been a lot of criticism and a lot of angry postings. And people who just, Aditya just said that this is a manifestation of anger. I think this is a manifestation of complete stupidity, because you don't understand issues. An eye for an eye, what Gandhi said, will only make the world go blind.
No, point taken, Colin Gonzalez, but is this a risk? Is this a risk that particularly human rights activists today have to run? Whether it's in a Chhattisgarh, whether it's in a Kashmir, that if you question the prevailing consensus in any form, this is a risk that you must run, that you are a soft target, because you are seen in a sense to endorse in some nationalistic viewpoint beliefs a gun culture or an alternative viewpoint that is not that they don't feel comfortable with.
Yes, Rajdeep, we've become very vulnerable, and after Prashant's attack, it's particularly dawned on me how fragile human rights activists are. All that they have as their weapon is their tongue and their determination and their spirit and their optimism, but apart from that, we are very vulnerable. My friend Rohit Prajapati was fought against communalism in Gujarat.
Yes.
On Sunday, his house was raided and the police came in and behaved very badly with him. And he had a press conference this afternoon. My friend Kavita Srivastav in Rajasthan had her house raided recently. I'm doing a case in the Supreme Court tomorrow of a tribal activist, Soni,
Yes.
who was arrested in Delhi and then taken to Chhattisgarh and tortured.
Yes.
And she's in hospital now. All those activists
Colin, how do you respond to the Aditya Raj calls who said that this is anger? This is the only form in which they can express their anger. What would you like to tell him today?
Well, we human rights activists have a different standard. I think some of these lumpins and gundas actually use their fists and weapons and so on. We human rights activists also were angry with Godse. For example, let's say Godse's killing of Mahatma Gandhi. But we channelized that anger and we said that the Godse play that started in Bombay, the theatre, had a right to function. We went to the High Court and we got an order against a horrible man, a man who had killed the father of the nation, and we said you have a right to put up the play. So human rights activists have a more cultured way of doing things, and gundas and antisocial elements have the lati and the salia to beat people with.
Yes, you want to quickly respond, Aditya Raj call to that? That this is a gunda culture. Somewhere this is encouraging a gunda culture.
I have never been... Rajdeep, you know, I have personally been a victim of terrorism. I am a victim of Gunda Raj myself. I am a Kashmiri Pandit ousted from my homeland for last 20 years. There has been no government, there has been no media who has been covering our views. There are 50,000 people languishing in the camps. And I have to today, unfortunately, share my podium with my own killer. And I am totally aghast today. I mean, the youth in the country do not have any other option but to resort to such unfortunate and mindless acts. Such barbaric acts.
No, you're virtually rationalizing violence in the land of Gandhi. We'll come to that in a moment. But Professor Radha Kumar, somewhere there will be those who will often respond saying that this time it's a right-wing group allegedly involved, so everyone is rushing to condemn it. Liberals rush to condemn it. What happens when groups which perhaps are not associated with the right, separatist groups resort to violence, when there are other left-wing groups, extremists who resort to violence? Why don't people condemn them equally, unequivocally? How do you respond to that? Is this almost as if one form of violence versus another form of violence?
Personally, I'm a pacifist and I abhor all forms of violence. And by the way, that includes verbal violence as well as physical violence, which is why I made the comment about the electronic media. And I believe that verbal violence can often lead to physical violence. Having said that, I do believe that we need to be very clear that violence is something that we reject as an option towards any means whatsoever. Even if you distinguish between having a political goal and having what one might say a goal of simply expressing your anger, which is regarded as a criminal act.
But Shazia Ilmi, Radha Kumar has spoken about the violence of words. Some say even Team Anna has to wake up to that all of us here, whether on television, whether in civil society, whether in government, are creating a dangerously polarized society. Either you're with us or with them. Even Team Anna has resorted sometimes in their language to that. And that can breed a certain kind of violence. We saw it in the way Aruna Roy, who was dissenting against Team Anna, was treated when she tried to come to the Ram Leela Maidan. She was heckled there. We've heard of other instances where people who don't agree to a particular viewpoint today are somehow marginalized or targeted, whether on Twitter, whether in public fora, or whether attacked in their own courts.
I think members of Team Anna have been targeted continuously. There has been a kind of a vilification campaign. Either you with the RSS or you with the Maoist. Something or the other has been happening. There, right from the outset, if you look at it, there were these tapes on Shanti Bhushan and media lapped it up, and then the entire thing became like this is an RSS conspiracy. And Aruna Roy's bill...
But don't you agree, whether it is Team Anna, whether it's civil society or whether it's media, we are all creating a dangerous them and us society. This time Prashant Bhushan became part of them. When he is part of Anna, he is part of us.
The very fact that Team Anna has members, a core committee, which have different points of view, because Prashant has a point of view which might be different from some other member. The very fact that most of us are left of centre, yet we've been called right-wing, or falling prey to right-wing politics. So we've been attacked as much as anyone else.
Okay, you've been attacked as much as anyone else.
But pitting corruption against communalism. I mean, look at this sophistry. You know, look at the cleverness of this argument. That just because you're talking about corruption, Prashant Bhushan talks about corruption and communalism. Non-entities like me talk about corruption and communalism. So when you talk about corruption, then you are communalist. That is also bias.
But hold on.
I'm sorry, Rajdeep, I have to interrupt here.
You know, Aditya Kaul.
I'm sorry. How can you talk about communalism?
Hold on.
He supports Azadi in Kashmir. He supports Azadi in Kashmir.
Yes, so
that's
his viewpoint.
So you can't beat him up. You can't beat up anody. That's non-negotiable.
Of course you can't beat him up. Of course you can't.
Absolutely. You cannot defend.
But we can counter him. We can counter that insane mindset.
How are you countering him? By disrupting Mirwais Omar Farooq. Let's assume Mirwais Omar Farooq wants Azadi. Let him. Why not counter it through a debate? Why not counter him through the law? Why resort to disrupting speech? Are you telling me there is no other podium available for you? You're on a television channel today. So is a Yasin Malik. That's the greatness of Indian democracy. Which other country allows this?
Today is a rare occasion, Rajdeep. Today is a rare occasion.
No, it happens all the time.
Today is a rare occasion.
It happens all the time.
Media goes gaga about the Gujarat riots. When does it talk about the ethnic cleansing and genocide of Kashmiri Pandits?
My point to you is, why are you creating a them versus us society? Human rights activists are anti-national. Kashmiri separatists are people who must be shunned.
Have we created it? Have we created it, or the media has created it?
Okay.
Aditya, you can't whip up public passions and build up rhetoric.
You know, Yasin Malik,
have to have a larger debate.
Yasin Malik, Yasin Malik, you talk of free speech here. The fact is that you and others have used the barrel of the gun for years. The problem is, how do you then have a dialogue? A dialogue can't be had in this atmosphere of threat and intimidation. When will that end? When will that end?
Rajdeep,
yes.
From 1988 till 2007, the reference point in Kashmir was only gun.
Yes.
Now, because of the persuasion of Indian civil society, Kashmiri youth give up the gun. There is a complete transition from violent movement to non-violent democratic movement.
Yes.
At least you should respect this change, this transition. I have a passionate appeal to the masses of India through this television channel, that this country has produced a person like Gandhi, who gave a concept of non-violent movement to the whole of the world. And people like Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King, they get the inspiration from him, and they start their movement in their respective countries. Today, on the soil of Gandhi, when I tried to find out the spirit and the soul of Gandhi, I could not find it anywhere. I find only the killers of Gandhi in every state. These are the people who killed the Gandhi. Now these are the people today who are telling every person that we will not allow you to speak. It was Atal Bihari Vajpayee who speak at Minari, Pakistan, that I want to resolve the Kashmir issue. He speak in Srinagar in 2003, where he said, I want to resolve this issue.
You're saying
these people at that time did not say any utter word.
Okay.
Today, when they are out of power, now they are attacking us. At that time, they engaged us in the dialogue.
Okay.
At that time, we were good people. We were not terrorists. These people were not attacking us. Now today, when they are not in power, whenever we are talking about the negotiating settlement, they start beating us. They start attacking us. They start attacking our families.
That was a good
They have not spared my wife. They attacked my wife.
Has developed in years.
Okay.
We'll have peace in Kashmir only when people like Yasin Malik are convicted for all the murders and rapes and barbaric acts of kidnapping that they have committed.
Okay, you've made your point of view. I'm going to give Colin Gonsalves the last word. Colin, at the end of the day, today is a sad day for anyone who stands for freedom of speech, for alternative viewpoints, for the genius of Indian democracy. How do you restore it? In your view, how can we restore it when we have alternate viewpoints, polarizing viewpoints? How do you restore the genius of democracy?
I don't really know, Rajdeep. I don't really know. What is clear is that society is actually splintered. Class splinters, caste divide, religious divides, we are hugely divided. The maximum we can say is that you can, within the bounds of democracy, you must express your opinion. You may heckle, you may jeer, you may shout slogans. That is permissible in a society. But you can't take a person and beat him up. And you can't make the obnoxious kind of comments that Aditya made, that a person should be locked up and chained up and this person should be, put away. It's, Aditya, it sort of manifests a very backward, kind of very crude and violent culture. I agree with Yassin Malik. This is the kind of culture that is actually spreading in the country. And it is treating people to hate one another. I can't think of anything more anti-national
like
than the spread of
committed
hatred
over the
of
years.
this kind.
Okay, let's leave it at that. This is a moment.
That is a stupid argument.
No, very
stupid argument.
Okay, hold on. I think Radha Kumar made a wise point that sometimes television channels do encourage polarized viewpoints. The last thing that we want is that polarized viewpoint leading to intolerance. One of the great things that the media can provide is a platform for different viewpoints to be expressed, and that's really what a media channel should do. We want different viewpoints to be expressed and then leave it to the viewers to judge, not through violence, but through a process where you can have argument and dissent and debate. That's really the future. Appreciate all our panelists joining us here on what is really a very sad day. Where do we stand on the editor's take here on this subject? The attack on Prashant Bhushan reflects a mindset that is intolerant towards any form of dissent or an alternative view. For much too long, such attacks have been condoned or rationalized, with the attackers escaping with minor punishment. The time has come now to send out a strong signal. Anyone who takes the law into their own hands must receive the severest punishment. And I might add, as Colin said, the ringleaders must also be attacked.